It's like the meeting, got it. The meet is being live streamed. Got it.
Yeah, we good.
Yeah.
Yo, what's up? This is Splendid Radio on Farside TV. And I have somebody very dear to my heart, man. OG homeboy, DJ Ty. What's up with you, man?
Well, good to be here. Glad to be here, and everything is good. Despite this crazy madness and interesting world, that's the main thing. It's interesting. Everything's good. Thanks for having me.
Nah, all good. So for everybody that doesn't know, Ty has a very interesting story. Like to him, it's just kind of, he's a very modest dude. He doesn't get into it too much, whatever. Ty's somebody that kind of I always tell people that my relationship with the far side, which is kind of like a marriage, it's like when you get married to something, you inherit stuff. And like you were one of the coolest things that I inherited along the far side journey, because it was kind of like early 90s, space and place. The far side had just gotten signed to Delicious Vinyl. As you were introduced to me, you were like a cool DJ cat, and you just had the plug on a gang of different situations. And so it was one of those things where if I didn't know the far side, I wouldn't have been introduced to you, where we could kind of have the relationship that we had, which is crazy because it's like it started off as like a casual, slightly business kind of thing. And then you're one of those guys where your heart is so big, you kind of adopt people along the way. You're similar to the dude Damon Albarn from the Gorillas. It's like if you talk to Damon from the Gorillas, most of the people that have been messing with him for a long time, everybody has the same story. They're like, oh, I came to a studio session one day and then I just never left. You know what I'm saying? Like I came into a studio session and I became family. Well, I met you through the far side, but it was kind of like we had like a slightly business situation, and then you were kind of like in the mix. You were this, you were. It's so crazy because you were that guy back then that threw hella parties that just had like everybody from Perry Farrell to just the most hip hop artists, the biggies and like all that kind of stuff back in the day. But the thing about it is you were never a cat to like blow your horn. You know what I'm saying? You were a cat that definitely could throw a hell of a party, whether it was in a club or at one of your lofts or something like that. So when I'm on my grind and I'm just really just trying to go hard, you're one of the cats that I think about when I want to draw energy of kind of feeling like, man, maybe I'm not going hard enough. Maybe I'm not being as appreciative to my situation as I should be. I think about you and we're going to get to what you've gone through and that whole thing. But you definitely blessed my life. So I just kind of wanted to give you that little bit of introduction to kind of lay it out.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
But that's not even going to prepare people
for expressing it.
Nah, that's cool. So when did you hear hip hop for the first time?
Yeah, jumping right into that. I pretty much, I was raised on Venice Beach, and first time I heard it, I believe it was 79, 1980, about 14, 15 years old. And, quite frankly, it was on Venice Boardwalk, and there was only a few songs out. But it was like, man, at that time, I think it was like Rapper's Delight, and maybe some Cool Herc. That was about it in 79, 1980. So there's 3 or 4 songs. And on Venice Beach, the breakdancers and the pop lockers were starting. And they pretty much played that same song the few songs all day long. So that's where I kind of first got introduced to it. And I was already listening to a variety of music. So I I didn't gravitate it to it at first. I just was like, I just really thought it was those first songs. I didn't think I kind of thought of an extension of disco, and I didn't think it would really take its own path. I was like, it's just a little branch off of disco, the first few, and hearing repetitions all day of the same songs. I was like, but eventually some people stepped into it, Run DMC and KRS-One, and we started to get versatility. Then I opened up to it. But at first I was like, man, I didn't think until like 1982 that it was going to work out. In 1979, 1980, I was like, I don't know. I was
So
already listening to world music, and I thought it was kind of pigeonholed and kind of like narrow at first.
real quick,
Yeah.
for those that don't know, we really got to break down the Venice boardwalk. You said that, so
I think that really would lend to the understanding of where I got introduced to it, and it was that was the only Los Angeles mecca for pop locking and breakdancing, right in front of my apartment, right on the boardwalk, all day, every day, same 3 songs. So I was like, man, come on. But eventually the other flavors came in and more versatility, and I was like, okay, it's gonna last.
cool. So Venice, was Venice where you grew up?
It's where I grew up. Moved there when I was 2.
Okay.
Just about 2 years old. Yeah, right there. Beautiful place. It was multicultural. It was really open-minded. It was the epitome of like, there was, what do you call it? There was a lot of community. There was community, and then it was and there was diversity. So it was really cool up until a little after the 80s. Then it started to get hard. Once crack hit United States, it kind of affected everything. It even affected the boardwalk.
So okay, so you had your taste of hip hop. You were raised on the boardwalk, so to speak. So
speak.
When I first saw Venice Beach, I want to say I'm from Harbor City, which is like South Bay or whatever. But when I first saw Venice Beach, it was probably I knew they had arcades down there. That was like the early 80s. But I want to say, when people were shooting videos, they would like show videos with girls roller skating down the boardwalk. You'd see people playing basketball. You see people out there lifting weights. And then it became a place where like skateboard riders would also go too. So it's a trip, because you had sent me one picture to post for your picture, but I was going through your Facebook and I was like, dude, like, man, he's so modern. Like he's not even laying it out. And I saw you riding an old school Alva board with like some J's on, like when J's weren't even popular like that. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, what color were those things? Those things had some color on them too, because I remember
red and black.
Red. Yeah, but I had red and blue ones.
Okay.
And I walked into, and that's when Crips and Bloods, right, were doing their thing. But I'm dread down to here. I remember going through some hoods and guys going, yo. And they go, and then they look at me and go, oh, he don't play that. Like he's African or something. It's all that stuff on it. He don't play that. They let me slide. They didn't know what to,
Yeah.
It was just because the Vans were already mixing the colors. So I was trying to do it more with Nikes. I wasn't into Vans as much.
And the funny part, when I saw that picture, I thought back to junior high. I was in junior high school when those J's were out. And I thought back, and I remember, I think I went to my mom or something, and I was like, I want to get some and Jordans were only $115 back there. They might have been 95, or they're either 95 or 100, like 120 or something. And I remember going, and my mom was just like, why would you want to pay that much money for shoes? That much money for shoes. And I was like, nah, I gotta have some Jordans, man. Everybody got Jordans. But yeah, nah.
Hook up the K-Swisses for $20. Come on.
Man, swap meet, K-Swiss and Feelers. You know what I'm saying? So how did you get into skating?
Well, I got into skateboarding way early. I got into skateboarding when I was about 6, 7 years old, and the wheels were just turning from metal to clay. That's how long I've been skateboarding. I was skateboarding when my first skateboard was called the Black Knight, and that's just when clay wheels went out before urethane. So this is, I'm talking 1971. Started skateboarding, and I really got into it all in the 70s, and it was kind of natural, and just that's the whole environment I was involved in. So we didn't think of it as anything special. We just thought of it as an extension of surfing, and we really treated it that way. And it wasn't accepted as much. Definitely, we got chased out of everywhere, and it wasn't understood. And we never thought that it would be anything but for something for kids.
Whoa.
I mean,
No, go ahead.
I remember even thinking like, why am I spending all day doing this? It's a way, I can't do anything with this in life. I remember thinking that at 13 and 14.
So,
But now, people have a different frame of mind. They're like, now it's a career.
oh, dude, I went to high school with
Yeah.
this cat who was kind of he barely got through high school the same way I barely got through high school, but he his name was Jeremy. Damn, what's Jeremy's name? Sheesh, I forget his name. His name was Jeremy, and he ended up
Yeah.
skating for Tony Hawk. And then like maybe like the mid 90s, my homeboy that I went to high school with, also Bert Parks, he shows me pictures of Jeremy hopping off of diesel trucks in Japan on skateboards and shit. And I'm like, at least he was able to do something with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it really grew fast. It's funny because there was a lull. In the 70s, it wasn't doing anything. In the 80s, it had a slow crawl. And I think in the 90s, it really just started to shoot up and get more world attention, definitely.
So tell me this. How did you, and how old were you when you met Christian Hosoi, which is like one of the greatest skateboarders, like, period?
Absolutely. He's like a Jimi Hendrix of skateboarding, the cat. And I met him probably in 1980, I think in 87.
Okay.
And I would have met him earlier if I wasn't on vacation for a couple of years prior to that. But he just came and started hanging around Venice, and right away we were friends immediately. So I started getting all of his boards, even though you saw me on that Alva board. Every board I got was free. I can't believe I was even on an Alva board that day, because I still got a stack of soy boards over here. He is a cool cat. He's a cool cat. He fit right in. It wasn't like I felt like he was raised in our neighborhood too, and it wasn't any different. And his skateboarding is phenomenal. There's a lot of people are just catching up to him now, right?
Yeah.
Besides the street skating is another level, but his vertical air and all that kind of stuff is untouchable.
So it's a trip. Two things. One, I saw the Hosoi documentary a couple years ago, and I want to say Block probably has something to do with that. But I saw it, and I was like, damn, he was a rock star before, like he was doing what hip hop artists like debate. He didn't have Porsches and all that kind of stuff, but the dude was flying all over the world. He had hair extensions.
Yeah. Yeah, they made that video while I was gone too. That's one of the things why, because I would have just been right in the heart of that, because Block and everybody. But they really did fuel it. They did. It was Block and the whole crew, the whole Venice crew. They did keep that nutrition going in there, and then you got a star like Christian, and here it is in the Olympics now.
So when I first met Brown, he was kind of like, and not because he's my homeboy, like this. I'm totally removing myself from home. But before Pharcyde, he was like, kind of like a legend, like bigger than life dancer. And he was this dude who we would see at clubs, but we really didn't mess with him like that. And I was hanging out with Imani, and he was involved in this dance contest. And then they had somehow a member got dropped out, and the other three dancers or something came to this decision. If we get Romai, we know we're gonna win. Like this, it was like an East Coast, West Coast, like dance battle or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like Brown was at a level, like at that level. When you met Christian, did you understand who he like? Did you know that he was like a Kobe Bryant of skateboarding when you first met him?
Oh yeah, I did immediately as a person who skateboards, and I see him skateboard. Plus, I came back into town after being out of town for a minute, and everybody, I was already corresponding with everybody. I knew about him. He knew me before he met me.
So
We
you
already
were
knew each
writing.
other.
So
So
while you was on vacation away, you was writing letters, communicating,
yeah, a few
shooting
friends.
kites,
Yeah, yeah,
and
kites.
you had heard about this cat Christian Hosoi or whatever. You come back home, and when you see him, you're like, he's better than everybody that's skating around. Like, was that the concise consensus?
Yeah, yeah,
Or,
by far. Yeah, he stood out. He was way ahead of the crowd. Yeah, he really was in his style for
okay,
sure.
okay.
Yeah.
So, when you were in junior high school, give us a glimpse at what like the soundtrack of music was at the time. Like, what was the music going on when you were in junior high?
Yeah, so I was already a record collector in junior high and had, I didn't have decks, turntables, but I was a record collector. So for me, I had already gone through, I like versatility. I had already gone through all the classics, from the classics from soul, rock and roll, reggae. So I was into Bob Marley already. I was into James Brown. I was into the Commodores. I was into Zeppelin. And Hendrix was one person I loved the most. I idolized the cat. That was the only cat that I really felt really tuned into. So my music in junior high was extremely, it had a wider variety than I could play for the people I hung out with. Um, I would say alone, I spent a majority of my time listening to classic reggae, as I do now, even though there isn't any new classic reggae. It just has that feel good thing, right? It vibrates with our resonates with our energy and all that stuff. So back then it was old reggae, Jimmy Cliff, Bob Marley, and some esoteric rock like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Uriah Heep, and of course Hendrix. And then some world music. I was really getting into Indian stuff because I started early. I was doing kung fu and yoga in the 7th grade, so I was into like listening to some sitar and Indian vibe, and collecting some African stuff. I started getting into King Sunny Ade, etc.
So when
But I
you were,
couldn't play this stuff around my friends. I had to play what's on the radio.
you
That's
know, one of the interesting things that I remember from us, and for the people that are listening, bear with us. We going somewhere. This is gonna be good. I'm just laying it out because you got to understand what you're dealing with. But I remember you telling me about a trip you had took to Jamaica, and at this point you were vegetarian, and you were kind of like, it was like a big deal to you that you had gone to Jamaica, you had hung out with these Rastas, some kind of way you met them, and you said you were hanging out with them, and even though they were kind of like broke, didn't have money, maybe kind of hungry, there was pigs. I remember you saying something about pigs, or there was pigs around or something, and you're like, dude, as hungry as these dudes were, whatever, the dudes wouldn't mess with the pork, man. They were eye to living. You know what I'm saying? And I think that had a big impact on you. And it was a trip because at the time I met you, I hadn't traveled. Like I wasn't managing the Far Side or road managing the Far Side or any of that. Like you were like you traveled before travel was kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? Like you were moving around, and I always thought that was kind of like, okay, like that's a big deal. So what was your high school like?
High school was a thing. I was only in high school for about 6 months, and then I did GED. I didn't stay long. I already had my apartment. I had my first apartment at 16, and I had to work. And then they were like, "Hey, how come you're not going to school? You go see the counselor." I'm like, "I got to work." And he goes, well, I got this alternative nighttime school for you. And I went there, went a few months, and I just did a GED. So I didn't do much high school. I was already grinding. Um, high school, the little bit of high school was a trip, man. I was on the swim team, and it was just before competition. No other brothers, nobody black was swimming. I already had dreads. The coach was tripping. He was like, "What's this on your haircut?" They didn't. There was no name for it back then. He's like, "Well,
Okay,
can you
okay.
cut this off?"
We
He
gotta
kicked me
bring
off
the
the team. The dude
we
kicked me off the team.
we gotta bring people up to speed. What year was this that you had dreads, where dreads were a socially unacceptable statement going on?
Oh, this is even later. I had him for a long time already, but that was 80. Was that 81? No, that's 82, 80. I'm sorry, that's about it's 80, 81.
Yeah, man. Like people don't even understand. Like honestly,
I didn't get kicked out of the school, but I get kicked off the team. The guy was like, "You don't have team spirit. You are not shaving your legs and wearing little speedos and cutting that mop off your head. I'm kicking you off the team. Kick me off the team. Only thing open is tennis class. Go to tennis class." I was like, "Oh, all there is girls in tennis class. No problem. You guys keep swimming. I'll go play tennis." I was like, it was not a problem.
you wasn't open enough for him to flirt with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's how them coaches are.
But let me spin it back before I get
Uh,
debated out of the game. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Okay.
Before I get debated out the game. So how did you start DJing?
Yeah, that's another thing. So I was 15, 16, 17. I was already collecting records. By then I had decks. I had two terms and a mixer, but I was just at home DJing at 16, 17. But I was in a bunch of reggae bands. One of them you may know is Boom Shaka. They're a local LA, one of the bigger
Yeah.
reggae bands. I was one of the original percussionists with them. So I was like 16, 17 and doing these gigs with this reggae band. And a couple of times they showed up, they said, "Hey, we have multiple bands playing, no music in between. We need somebody to play music in between." That's how it came along. "Hey, you have records? You want to play some records in between?" And then I said, "Sure." And they're like, "We're going to pay you, here's $200. I was like, "What?" Because I'm in this reggae band and there's 12 of us and the whole band gets $200. That's when I quit being in the band. I'm like, "You guys keep playing in the band and practicing all day. I'll show up and DJ for a couple of hours and make this." And I didn't do it at first for the money. It's always been for myself. But I ended up I quit being a musician almost practically. I just dabble a little bit with that and just realize that I can make more money playing the artist music more than they're making money sometimes. It's kind of sad. Some of the artists don't get paid. DJ gets more money than him or her.
So how did a guy from Venice get introduced to Hollywood? Because when I met you, oh man, hold on one second. Shame on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, shame on me, man. It's never happened, but one time for every time. So
Yeah, that
how
beach. How'd I get up there? Being raised on the beach, and that beach community kind of really is kind of anti-Hollywood, anti anything five blocks from the beach is kind of like another world to us. So I didn't really have as a junior and as a teenager, I went up for a few concerts here and there, but it wasn't until like 1990 when Venice was it was too hot for me.
Mhm.
I was I'd been in and out of trouble a couple times. I got out of trouble, and then I had a target. Cops. I was a target for the cops, man. They just
Well, if you
dudes
had
with dreads,
dreadlocks,
yeah, rolling around like they was just. I got pulled over weekly and drawn down on, and so I was just like, let me just go downtown. So I got a big loft downtown, which was kind of ahead of its time too. There wasn't too many people down there, and being downtown, all of a sudden, I'm closer to the parties. That's what it was,
mhm.
and I got drawn into the parties and DJing these parties and pulled right in because I wasn't. I played all styles of music, and you know how it was back then. You could mix and match your club goers and in the club scene a little more than it got in the late 90s. Then it kind of narrowed out to strictly this crowd, strictly that crowd. But we had them mishmash parties back in the early 90s where it was the diversity was somebody you never think you'd see out next to a b-boy, next to some kind of, what is that, a semi-punk rock ska something next to a, it's like it was mixed like that. So I got a lot of gigs in Hollywood because of that, and I'm always daily going to Venice, to downtown Venice, downtown. So I got pulled into Hollywood just because of my my versatility in playing music, I guess, and they like that.
amongst other things.
Amongst
It's crazy because talking to Norwood was kind of like Norwood of Fishbone. He was kind of
one of my favorite cats.
Back in that time, how New York had its renaissance, we kind of had our renaissance where like the punks, the skies, the hip hop cats, like everybody kind of, which that's one of the things that kind of gravitated me towards you. Like with your personal parties, I've been to some of the parties that you had at your loft downtown, and it's crazy.
The Bat Cave,
man. That is how I describe it to people when I tell them, and it's like, you could go into a DJ Ty party, see Perry Farrell, Leonardo DiCaprio, Bud Bundy, all kind of female actors.
Oh, that's right. He was hanging out.
People moving around. And it was just kind of like, I was like, damn, this is my homeboy. He really throwing it, and this was before like social media, and it was popular to have parties where there would be like all these guys, and you were the cat that all these actors and whatnot, like they could feel comfortable like partying within your space. You know what I'm saying? And for me, like before the Pharcyde situation, I was like, man, I was green as a leaf, man. I hadn't seen anything, hadn't been around anything. And like away from the Pharcyde, so I could say like, okay, the Pharcyde dudes, they were rock stars. They were my homeboys. They were rock stars. But DJ Ty was a rock star too. You know what I'm saying? Like DJ Ty had these parties that it might not even be an advertised party. You might just be a Friday night where you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna have some people over. And it's just like, okay, you got this actress here, you got that actor over there, and all that. So I say all that to say, man, you were in the mix. So from all of that, how many brushes with the law had you had before you got arrested for your long haul?
It goes through stages, because how I told you, in Venice in the 80s, I would be getting pulled over weekly with the dreads, and then so I had to get away from Venice. Once I got out of Venice, I was getting drawn down on, searched. Man, I remember them. I can get into stories. There's some ridiculous stuff, but once I moved downtown, and I really learned how to become a lot more invisible, because I was, I think I was really underground, man. Even though I did all these parties, I was underground. That's why you're saying these actors and actresses were hanging out, and people were hanging out because A, there was no cameras in my house. B, they already knew they were in an underground situation. I was a herbsman, man. I was on full all the time. So everything was low key. They know whatever they do there, nobody's going to know, because they're already in a secret hidden spot. And so they felt comfortable there. How many brushes did I have? I'm sorry, with the law, I can't count them, man. I can't count them.
Okay.
I can't count them. It was, and I did learn how to, I say become invisible, but at least not stand out to them. And it came with like driving a brand new low key car and not looking hippie and funky or scary and dread. I'd have everything tight, and I was just like, no, not me over here, not me with the duffel bags. Don't look at me. It's like
duffel bag.
Yeah, he's like,
and it's crazy because I'll say when I met you, you were living with Elion in a house, and at that house, and then Trey was dealing with Elion at the time, and they would throw these parties. And at the
Yeah,
time,
I was renting a room there. I had another place, but yeah, I had a room. I was
you
like a
always had
business
several
spot.
places.
Yeah, it was a business spot. Really, it was just one of my. But yeah, Elion. Okay, now the
And
party's there.
it was crazy because you would have, even at that house, like LL Cool J rolling through. Like honestly, I could say this. The first time I saw something that like I could say was like ballerish or like balling or just whatever, or just like money, something that represented money. Eliana threw a party one time, and Kadada came in because Kadada, I guess, and Elion were friends. And I remember her coming in with a case of Cristal. And I had no idea what liquor costs or whatever, or whatever. And I just remember her coming in with a case, and that was just like the kind of person she was. It was like, Kadada was like, okay, I'm coming to the party. I'm gonna bring some liquor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And then
I recall.
later in the 90s, as Cristal became popular, I'm like, damn, I was at a party where Quincy Jones's daughter was just hell of a cool. She just kind of strolled in. She strolled in with LL Cool J, and she came in with a case of some liquor that was like $1,200. I'm not $1,200. I'm sorry, like $200 or better per bottle, and she had a whole case of it. And it wasn't something she was bringing to the party where she's going to hog to herself or hog to her friends. She brought the case and put it down and was like, "Yo."
Yeah, I recall that. Yeah, I remember that was a nice afternoon party. I think that one started. I remember that party because the house, the vibe. It was a good energy day. That was one of those summertime perfect
Man, it was something.
90s.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you what my memory of the party was, other than the Cristal. Paul was promoting the Pete Rock remix of Microphone Checker by Dr. Specs. And so, because Paul was the manager of the Pharcyde at the time, and I kind of couch surfed at his house while I was trying to find my way a little bit, he had given me 2 copies, and I dropped it at that party.
Yeah.
And somebody went into my bag and stole them. Oh, I was hot, boy.
Oh, and you know what's funny? I wonder if they're listening to the show right now today.
Nah.
Whoever that is like, oh, somebody's like, oh, somebody.
I know.
Somebody that's in the. Oh, you know who it is?
I know who it was, man. I know who it was. I can't prove it, but everything in my heart tells me that it was a certain DJ. Yeah, it was a certain, which we had a little bit of rivalry going on or whatever. But I just look back now and I just like, man, I was blessed to have. It's so crazy because in my brief stint as a DJ, by me being ushered in with the Pharcyde, I was given all kind of love that was just like, dude, I really couldn't even DJ, but based on people wanting to kind of appease them, I was DJing at Carlos and Charlie's. I know you remember that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which ended up turning into Bubblins. Jay-Z gave it a shout out, Bubbling and Dublins. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's right.
And all that. So before we hop into your whole mix, I want to start off with something that's going to kind of break your character down a little bit. Pharcyde had a concert at Claremont College years ago. And I don't know if I told you to come or whatever, but you ended up there and you were with your boy, Nick. Nick's family had, I definitely wasn't managing the group at the time. I was just kind of hanging out, and I had parked my car in LA, but you guys that came out to the show, and Nick, his family had something to do with the ownership of the Roxbury, the famous Roxbury Club or whatever.
They did. They owned it.
And I remember back then I was like broke as a joke. And I had rolled up with the guys, and you were like, yo, man, come and hang with us. And I was like, man, I really ain't got no money, blah, blah, blah. And you put $200 in my pocket, and then you took care of me on
I don't
another.
Remember that.
Hey, but I'm just saying, I got to break it down to who you are. And then you gave me you know, some little drink and some little ins and outs for the night. And then we rolled out. And I remember going to the Roxbury, and we didn't even come in through the front door. We came in through like a whole nother situation. And the thing that kind of blew my mind back was like, dude, your boy whose family owned the Roxbury, he's not somebody that you would look at and be like, his family or he owns the Roxbury or whatever. And we went in, and it was like this, it was a non-Black people night. You know what I'm saying? That I know.
Yeah.
That I know. And you kind of walked us in, and everybody, we walked through the kitchen. That's what it was that blew my mind.
That's right. We're coming through the kitchen.
I was like, dude, why didn't I know that this? Because I would have been trying to get into the club and get the hookup because I knew it too. And I had like one of the greatest nights in my life. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. But the trip was what I learned, other than your generosity, what I learned is a lesson that kind of helps me to this day. Never look at somebody and judge them for who you think they are, because looking at Nick, you never knew he would have had anything to do. You never would have knew him or his family had anything to do with that club. You know what I'm saying?
Right. The whole family is like that. They're humble and non-assuming. They just work. Their whole family.
Yeah, and then I saw the movie that came out, the Roxbury, and I was like, dude, I was at that. I was like, I was there hanging out.
I know the movie doesn't connect with the reel on that one. But that's so funny because Nick checked in with me. He saw the post up for tonight. He's probably listening right now. He's probably listening.
Hey, what's up, Nick? You know what I'm saying?
What's happening, Nick?
Checking with us. And then on another level, you know, you really looked out for me when my mom had passed away. And I think that kind of made us closer. In a way, it kind of made us closer, because when my mom passed away, you probably had at the time 3 or 4 spots. You know what I'm saying? And you would allow me to come to any of the spots, and I could just go in your refrigerator. I could just cook whatever. It wasn't even a thing. I could hang out as long as I need to hang out.
Of course.
And like, you never were like, okay, beat it. You know what I'm saying? It was more like we built together. We got closer together where you could help me. You did help me. And I was just kind of like, damn. And then to your character, you were the dude who, when you were living downtown at the Bat Cave, you'd have these hella homeless dudes around. And you would really let them come in and kind of straighten up around the house and like, dude, these are homeless dudes.
There was a couple, that, you know, I knew them out throughout the years, and it's a huge loft, so it's like it was doable. Yeah, there was a couple guys I got close enough to let them give them some work really close to me like that. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you give them some smoke, you feed them some food, you do all this shit, and I'm like, Ty's different, man. Like, he's different. So I say all that to kind of like lead up to where we're going, because I've always had a positive mentality. After my mom passed and everything, very tragic situation. The way that you are reminds me a lot of myself. And I feel like I don't know why we linked or why we kind of clicked up the way we clicked up, but it was like, I feel like you gave me the love of somebody you had known for like 20 years or that you had grown up with as a child. But like, dude, in reality, I've probably only known you for about like 5 years, 6 years or something like that. And you really just kind of like pulled me in. So with that being said, while you were doing your hustle, were you hustling for yourself, or were you hustling because you felt an obligation to take care of other people and to kind of like look out for other people?
Yeah, there were some, as a person who, you know, I was hustling, so I was moving herb mostly. I was an herbsman. And at a young age, I always felt that that it was a good thing and that it got a bad rap and that law was wrong, and it's actually a spiritual, good, positive, great thing. So I had this moralistic push behind me that that everybody needs to have herb and it should be legal, and I wanted to spread it. Put it this way: in junior high, weed, all our weed had seeds in it, right?
Mhm.
And I had foster parents for a couple years back then. They were selling weed. I get all their weed. I had handfuls of seed. I walked around junior high throwing seeds all over my junior high. They had town halls about it. They're trying to figure out who's, all year, why are those pot plants all over our junior high school? My only 6 months in high school, I did the same thing. Seeds there. So this is to say that Johnny Appleseed trying to pass out. So I had this ethics behind it, but I was doing it for not just for myself. I thought it was a good thing. I wanted to promote it. Now it's become legal, and I'm like, now everybody's going broke. Big companies are coming. I knew all that would happen too, but I also know that marijuana is a positive, good thing, and it could save the planet in some areas, especially if it was utilized to its fullest. So I kind of had that ethics pushing me behind it. But to just hustle and to make money, it was never just about myself, because as you knew, you knew my dad.
Oh man,
know,
and real quick,
and
real quick, I'll say this to you. I got to give you your props. One of the reasons I give my father, me only having one parent surviving, one of the reasons I give my father so much attention is because I saw the way that you took care of your father and you made him comfortable, like for his years, like while you were able to, like, dude,
yeah,
you had your father staying in a fly apartment over off of Wilshire, dude. And it was amazing to me, dude, that like I know a dude who hustles, but he has his father in like this apartment that's far more luxurious than your father at that point in time in his life probably could have came to afford or whatever. And then I remember your father had a girlfriend that took care of him also, and like you took care of both of them. And I just remember saying like, I always knew that I wanted to make money and that I wanted to like do good. I always felt like you got to take care of the people around you or you're not shit. You know what I'm saying? So I still ain't really made no money, but I'm working on it. But me looking at you in your situation, it was really dope to me because I was like, damn, Ty's out here hustling. He's out here doing his thing, but he's doing his thing to the point where like, I wish, not to say that like this needs to be glorified or just put out there to the trappers or whatever, but like, dude, you really had like, 4 places at a time. And while you had 4 places at a time, you were taking care of your father, you were taking care of friends, family, the whole nine. Like I said, when it came to the homeless people, I would be tripping because I'd be over at your house. And I'm like, man, he got these homeless dudes over here. Hey, what's up, Ty? Ty's like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Having them coming in and eating and everything. And me, being ushered into Hollywood via Pharcyde and then meeting you, it was just very impressionable to me. But, I thank God that even though, coming into Hollywood, whatever, being kind of thrown into the lion's den, there were guys like you that could kind of show me like the right way, like ethically, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, each one, teach one, look out for people, not just about the bread, and all that. So I say all that to build you up to the infamous day at Carl's Jr., which is no longer there, off of Santa Monica and
Santa Monica and Highland.
Yep, Santa Monica and Highland. So on this day, break it down to me from the point that everything turned left.
Yeah, so I've had experience, decades of doing it, and I should have like trusted my instincts because it was a setup. It was one of my clients, my smaller clients, who all of a sudden wanted to go big. When a smaller client all of a sudden wants to go big all of a sudden and has a story behind it, at first I was like, nah. Then I was like, fuck it, it's easy. I'll just go right and stop and go meet him real easy. But I still had a little bit of a like the hair standing up in the back of my neck. Like when I pulled up, I was like, something's not right. Something is not. So I was kind of sniffing it out, but I was kind of too late to change. I should have just shut it down right there when I'm like, something don't feel right. But I'm like, but I ain't scared. That's just how I was. I wasn't scared. And so, dude, I'm coming to meet, jumps in. And, I'm really my guard's down because he's a multimillionaire. He rolls up in a Rolls Royce. I think, what kind of petty stuff is he going through?
Mm-hmm.
But so he jumps out of that, jumps in mine. I'm like, yeah, it's right here. And all I know, he's got it. And he jumps out and runs. I shift into extreme survival mode. There's no thinking involved. It's just survival mode. So I downshift and step on the gas, and I got to plow through cars. Cars are trying to block my way. And then, once you plow through them, and those are undercover cops,
Agents are trying to block
yeah,
your way, and you're
yeah,
smashing
FBI
through
agents are
them.
trying to block my way. Yeah, so they just open fire. I'm not even armed, but they consider your car as your weapon. So yeah, I got away with that because I totaled all their cars. But it was about 8 hours later. They had already figured out where all my lofts were, and they had helicopters were all over the city, and they had called everybody on any of my phones, and they kind of caught up to me to a point where I was surrounded and I had to lay down. I was surrounded, and it was funny because I didn't have to lay down. I could have kept running, but I would have been shot in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was funny. It was like, we caught you. I was like, you didn't catch me. I gave up. Because if I didn't give up, I'd be in a different dimension right now. I'd be like, basically, yeah, that was it was unreal, but it's actually thoroughly real, and it's neither good or bad. It's just how it went down, and here we are now. This is what's good. I'm glad that I didn't get hurt. Nobody got hurt really, and that we are here now. And it's just a story, and it built us up and made us bigger, and it's a good experience, man. Not at the time it wasn't, but when I take the best out of it, the good things about it, then it's all good. It's all good.
So, with that situation, I remember it's so crazy because I got a call from Trey, and
Yeah.
he wasn't in the group anymore, and I didn't communicate with him, but I remember him calling me, and he was like, yo man, something's going on with your boy T. I don't know if you're talking to him, but something's going on. And I was like, and it was like the day that it happened. So I guess they did something where they put your license on that was one of the first time when they, like,
on
for
the
local news stations,
yeah.
they're looking for somebody and they put the ID up and have you seen this person, blah
Oh,
blah
it was
blah.
funny because I had ditched him when I had ditched him, and I lost him at that Carl's Jr. 15 minutes later, I showed up at somebody's house, and they're like, "You're all over the news. You're all over the news." I was like, "How'd they even?" But they had my car because I ditched my car. They had my car. They knew who I was, so they already had my picture up, APB and stuff. But okay, so Trey was telling me, and then
Yeah. And I
you
was
saw it on the
like,
news.
and it was weird because I hadn't even talked to him like forever. And I was like, damn. And so then I had spoke to one of your buddies, and your buddy was like, yeah, Ty had a situation, blah, 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 blah. So I knew the situation was serious based on the person who I had spoken to. And once again, it's so good for you and I to talk. And then also it helps me, like, for whatever reason, our interactions always grow from them. Cause just like when we were speaking yesterday,
Likewise.
I had a perception of your friend that came around after you were incarcerated, but it was before they sentenced you. It was like in between. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy because I was thinking that the friend you had who was coming around, I felt kind of like their integrity was just kind of like whack. I kind of and it, like at first I was kind of like, okay, this is Ty's boy, whatever. But then something just it didn't make me feel cool. But then talking to you yesterday, you're like, man, this dude was down for me more than anybody was down for me. So I was like, okay, I need to recheck the way that the way that I look at people, and maybe don't be so hard, to come to a judgment, because you were like, man, this is a dude who looked out for you more than anybody. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay,
Yeah, the most.
yeah. So I
And
was
he
like,
and he did get that from other people too. I think he wasn't coming off. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I think he was probably a little. He's probably a little bit aggressive with people, or not aggressive, just
oh no, it
seriously
was
like,
aggressive. It was aggressive.
yeah,
Yeah, it was aggressive.
yeah.
I remember.
And I said, go check everybody, go check them, see, do this and that, do this. And he was serious about it. He was on it. He became
Man,
an extension of me, but the hard extension of me.
it went, put it this way, it went from me looking at the situation and saying, like, dang, and even to the point of where I got together with another one of our mutual friends, and we were both thinking, like, is this dude really looking out for our boy, or wah. To where now I'm just kind of like, man, maybe I shouldn't be so fast to judge people. You know what I'm saying? And just,
Yeah, because I told you, he's still my extension of myself.
yeah,
Like that.
yeah. So, at the
The
point,
higher extension of myself, really. He's cat. He's good.
so when you got initially sentenced, how many years did they sentence you to in prison?
8 years.
Okay.
That was, and I did the 7. I did 7 out of that 8.
Okay.
And then, it goes a little further than that, though. You get out, you're on probation for 3 years, stuff like that. So it just affects your whole life if you let it.
It's so funny because I feel we kind of have a kindred spirit. And when you got out, you hit me up when you were at the halfway house. And I remember because we were doing sound check, we had a show at the Key Club, and we were doing sound check, and your halfway house was like off of Franklin. I don't know if your halfway house was off of Franklin.
Exactly, it was.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking Franklin because
it's just down there.
Making my way to the Key Club, and I stopped by and I saw you. And the thing that blew my mind was like, okay, I know that Ty was set up. I know that he was just gone for 8 years. And when I went to go and meet you, there was no hatred in your heart. You know what I'm saying? Like you weren't bitter at all. To even to the tone, and I might be stepping out for saying this. I was like, well, damn, dude, how do you feel about homeboy that woo? And you were like, man, if I saw him, I walk the other way, man. If anything happens, this guy, they're gonna be looking, they're gonna be looking at me. Yeah. And I was like, for somebody to go through 8 years being taken away from their life, from someone who he knew, and for you to get out and you were the same dude that you were before you went in. You didn't have any accountability issues. You weren't mad. And I know you well enough to know if you're mad at somebody or just whatever. Like, man, I've had conversations with you about, years ago about mad stuff. And so I know you know how to get mad, or know how to, not like somebody or whatever. So it wasn't that.
Right.
But it was a trip to me because you weren't even to me, you weren't even tripping off of that. And you were just kind of like, you know what? It's the end of a situation. And now my life is at a new situation and I'm moving forward. Like, how did you deal with the anger of that situation? Also with taking ownership of the decisions that you had made?
I know that a lot of people struggle with that and have a hard time with that because they look at everything as outside of themselves. And it's sort of a survival technique. Let's go back to having any other hardships in my life. I realized the hard stuff that I was going through when I was a kid with food and different, like being on the streets and stuff. The way I thought about it only made it worse, or the way I think about it makes it better. And I didn't have to think this out and map it out it's like it was subconscious that for survival reasons, I can't torture myself with my thoughts. It slows me down. My my whole um, my whole way of movement was not to make things harder on myself. So certain things like not blaming other people for anything and taking ownership on stuff like that really does bring it down to it's a survival thing, because it's harder for me to be angry and stew in that and sit in that and not move forward. I'm all about moving forward. The past is just it's an anchor, and I don't let that happen to me, because man, it's a fun, short, interesting life. And anything that I went through that was hard or bad or wrong, in retrospect, it's just kind of more flavor to it. It hurts when it's happening,
Mm-hmm.
but in retrospect, then you're just like, okay, that just adds more flavor to what's going for, or strength, or foundation, or knowledge and growing from it. And a lot of people need to be told this or read this or study this, but it was instinctual for me to grow and move, that I had to get over things in my mind, not get over them, but turn them around and make them better. So that a lot of bad things happen, and I really just try to pick out the good stuff, and I don't overthink it. It just happens now. It's natural, and I'll pull the best out of that for the growth and the progress, of self. Therefore, I can help everybody else. And a lot of people speak these kind of ways as cliche, and they live their life as a cliche, man. And to be, it doesn't it feel good when we're just true to ourselves and true to everyone around us. And being true to yourself would be not torturing yourself and not thinking, blaming yourself or blaming other people. It just is what it is, and get the best out of it. I didn't hold on to anything because I knew that would be an anchor, and I didn't have to think that out. I really wanted to be able to see dudes who did me wrong or something, and I'm over it. Maybe they're still stuck on it, but I'm over it. I'm 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 on to the next with that. And it's just appreciating the sunrises and the sunsets, and brethren, having good friends and breaking bread, and it's appreciating that. And then all these bad things that happen are there's lessons from them. So there is a little inkling of something good. If not, it at least helps you get rid of something you needed to get rid of it at these kind of progressive moves. So it wasn't hard. It's instinctual for my survival that I'm going to at least think right and not torture myself with unnecessary thoughts and thoughts that I consider not correct, to blame outside forces and people for what we're going through, because mostly what we're going through is psychological. That emotional stuff is all, and we just let it happen to ourselves. And and it's just a natural survival skill to not torture myself. My mind won't do that. I'm like, when mine works for me, let's make things right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like, yeah, no, man, I feel like it's so crazy how we ended up being cool the way we are, because I just feel like I've learned so much from it. Like it's just like, in a weird way, we're similar, but we're different. But I've learned so much. But it was really commendable, because when you first got out and we met up, I was like, Ty's not angry, he's not bitter, he's not whatever. I'm like, you know
This
what?
ain't right.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you know what? He tripping. He just been out for a couple of days or whatever. He's at the halfway house off of Franklin or whatever. And I remember I had invited you to the show, and you're like, damn,
Oh wait, I want to just one thing though. The only person I was ever mad about getting in trouble is I'm only mad at myself. And And really, I can't blame somebody for getting me in trouble if I'm messing with them and I know I shouldn't be met, right? So
Yeah.
that's smart enough, man. We do it all to ourselves. I was the one that had a feeling I shouldn't go there, and I went there. But go ahead. But it was a couple. You were saying,
Yeah. You know, I remember it tripped me out because it was like, honestly, the reason why I never really got angry when my mom got murdered is because I kind of felt like, well, damn, if you allow yourself to just get really mad about this
mm-hmm,
is something that you could be mad about or really angry about with some validation.
mm-hmm.
And like, okay, so where does it stop? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. To what end? To what end? Well, where will it end? It
like,
just.
like man, like I can remember going to, so my mom had a funeral in LA, then we had a
Mm-hmm.
funeral in Mississippi and we buried her. And I remember
Yeah.
being at the funeral in Mississippi and my cousins were coming up to me and my cousins was like, and at this time they didn't know who had killed her. Like it was still the detectives kind of knew, but they kind
Oh,
of,
so they were like on a who we gonna get kind of stuff.
yeah,
Who do we gotta? Yeah.
they knew it was him, but what they wanted him to do was give some of the stolen merchandise to one of his homeboys that had a felony so they could get his homeboy so they could have a witness or get somebody to turn on him or whatever. So
Yeah.
I remember like 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 being in Mississippi and my cousins were coming up to me and they was like, what? Ain't nobody seen nothing? Nobody know nothing? We gonna Uzi up the whole block. We about to come out there. We about to, and once we Uzi up the block, people gonna start seeing something. And I remember saying to myself, like, oh man, we can't have this happen. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's not gonna help. And so I kind of pulled back in my whole processing of it. And I just said, you know what? I'm never gonna ask God why this happened because I had a belief and still have a belief that whatever your religious faith is, at the moment that you question God, you might as well do fentanyl, you might as well do crack, you might as well do heroin, you might as well do whatever. Like, when does it stop? Like, if you question what has been your foundation of faith, then what, like, where is there a stop? Like, there is no stop. Like, you might as well just, have sex with women that have HIV or whatever. Like, they do. You might as well just do whatever the wildest thing is in the world that you can do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. If you don't have
so I
that
never
foundation.
allowed myself to go there. But even though I had went through that, when I saw you, and even to the point of where when we went out to dinner afterwards, we ate at we went to Versailles. And I
Versailles.
remember I was like, I'm gonna have dinner with him at Versailles, and I'm not gonna mention his situation, but I'm gonna look at Ty and see if he's angry. And like, dude, there was no anger there, and that was amazing to me, dude. Like that was that.
Oh, I didn't know you was checking.
Oh man,
But
it was one
no,
of the.
but to say, like, that's what I was saying, some things people say as cliche because all of those cliches are really strong and real, but it's just different if you really live it without effort. It makes life so much easier, man. It's just, and I'm not really trying to fool myself, so I just those things are easier to me, those cliches of letting things go and stuff. I look at it as the easy way out. To me, it would be hard to be angry and resentful and go down memory lane, and that would drain me. That would just burn me out.
So tell
I
me
would
this:
have no energy for progress.
at what point after you got sentenced were you at peace with what had happened, or was there anger to a point and then it just all spun around?
No, no, no. As soon as I was sentenced, I was like, I'm so glad I'm sentenced, man. Because, before you're sentenced, you don't know what you're going to get. I was like, glad I was sentenced. I got 8 years. The judge was trying to give me 10. I was facing more like 14. So since the lawyer talked him down to 8, I was like, oh, okay, at least I know now, so it's really weird that I was like, oh my God, now I know. To be happy to hear that's what I got. No, but if you're facing more time and you're waiting to hear what this is for a long time, and all your loved ones are waiting to hear what it is. You get relieved once you know what your release date is. And there were, in that whole time I was in there, in the 7.5, well, including the halfway house, 7.5. There were times where I'm like, I'm so, just when I felt like, to me, it was a giant waste of time. It didn't do me any good. I didn't learn to appreciate life more in there. I appreciated life way before I went in there.
I'm
I
sure you
appreciated
did.
sunsets.
You
Yeah,
lived
I
a great
appreciated
life.
hearing. Yeah, I mean, but I did. I gave thanks and praises on a daily basis when I was a teenager. I was like, man, I'm so thankful to be here on Venice Beach. So there was times I was sitting in there and I would get angry. I didn't get angry at the person who got me in trouble or for myself. I got in trouble for wasting time. Like, this all day, I'm just staring at the walls. Another day, staring at the walls. Another year, staring at the walls. That got me mad, wasting time. So I would try not to. I read and I wrote and I read and I wrote. Other guys are watching TV and working out and watching TV and working out and arguing. I was just reading and writing. Just trying to make up for the time I was in there. But I got angry a few times at just the waste of time. There's really no way to progress when you're sitting in there for
Well, one thing
years and
I'll
years and
say,
years.
while you were out and you were doing your thing, like you were one of the guys that did make a difference. You know what I'm saying? And you definitely made a difference in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
Like definitely made a difference. And it was,
wow, man.
Because I only knew you from like 90s up. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like in the 80s, late 80s, none of that. And for me to be able to come to the downtown crib, or if I was at your dad's crib or whatever crib you had, like I could just stroll to the fridge, you know what I'm saying? Get the meals cracking. And beyond you just providing the food, you gave me a very positive outlook just on shit. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely
from when we met though, I just felt like there's trust, there's unity, there's a kindred. There was also, it's like I felt like I knew you before I knew you. I did, man. I did. It was just right away. I'm like, all good. You're right. And we're right side by side on that. And so I appreciated you as a friend immediately, as well, as low key as I am, because I don't usually express myself like that. This is probably the most expressive as I can get.
Yeah, no, man, it was a trip. So beyond that, what did you do during the COVID lockdown?
Well, so lately I've been working multiple jobs, managing a farm,
Okay.
a pot farm, marijuana farm, managing that up north in Humboldt, and also managing some construction sites. And of course, there's no DJing going on, so that came to an abrupt halt. So I came to my pad in LA, and I just sit here like everybody else that sits there, try to get some music going. I'm still DJing for myself and making mix CDs and stuff, mixes. And so I just was traveling from up north and back. So I'd do my 10-hour drive, stay up there for a couple of weeks, work, come back down, hibernate, do music. But my time is really, really spread thin because I have quite a few friends. I have my daughters. I've got 3 daughters, and
Okay,
I give everybody energy.
Real quick. So your daughters, it was so funny to me because your oldest daughter, and this is no disrespect to her, man. Like I promise. She was the funniest looking little kid, man. And I was like, and she's wearing glasses, and I was just like, I was like, dang, man, how's it gonna be for her? And the crazy thing about it, like, dude, she grew up. She took in everything you gave her. Like, dude, she's doing better than both of us. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, she's a little psychologist now, and and thankfully, my boy that we are talking about, he was bringing her to visit me every 2 weeks the whole time I was down, so we still kept it tight. And then it was a big thing because I went in when she was 13, got out when she's an adult, but at least we saw each other every couple of weeks, give or take. There were some breaks in there. and so there was still influence in her life. And I think even me being away and her seeing me what I went through was an influence. And I hope that I'm still an influence in her life, because we talk all the time. I'm about to go see her and all that stuff, and
And
we're tight, even though she lives in the next state over. But
you know, the interesting part is me seeing her grow up when
yeah,
you were like, okay, you know, she's gonna be out here for a couple of weeks and she's staying with her boyfriend. And I was kind of
yeah,
like, staying with her
yeah,
boyfriend. Like,
because
well, we
yeah,
gotta
she's
see what
grown
kind
up
of dude,
now.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, she grew up now. Yeah,
I was like, we gotta see what kind of dude this is, man. And then you know, you continue your tradition. I was able to come to your house in Venice and cook and walk into the fridge and do my thing, whatever. And I'm seeing homeboy lurk around and everything. I'm like, okay, he's all right. You know what I'm saying? She did
yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. He's a good guy, man. I
Nah,
like him.
he's a great
This
guy.
is so only boyfriend she's ever had. She only had one boyfriend, so they're lifers.
Hey,
He just
good.
proposed, all that kind of stuff.
Hey, man, good for her and good for you, man, because you put the right stuff in her.
Uh,
Because you know homeboy kind of impressed because it was a trip because I was expecting one thing, and then I really hadn't interacted with her too much, but he was there in the kitchen when I was cooking and we were talking. I was like, okay, he's kind of smart. I was like, okay, this is all right. We we give it approval. I ain't got to get with Ty and figure out what we're gonna do to this fool. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, right away I understood that. I think she ended up with somebody like, in a way that he and I are alike in some ways,
Okay.
and so I see that, and that's and I appreciate it too, because he listens, he does, he's very personable, he's sensible to other people's, he considers other things and other people very much so before he makes his uh his mark.
Well,
He's a good guy. He's a good
I've
guy.
said it a
Shoot.
million times, and I'll say it again. You're the
Mm.
one cat. If you ever made that phone call, even if I didn't want to, I'll probably have to just hop in the car and make my way to DJ Ty. You know what I'm
Man,
saying?
if I ever, hopefully when I make that phone call, I'll just be like, come on outside and jump in our automated flying car and let's go somewhere. That's the phone calls I'll be making. Let's go
Nah,
relax.
nah, that's cool. That's cool. So
Mm.
uh moving forward with your vast musical knowledge, ins and outs, who would you say are your top 3 rappers?
Now that's a really hard one, because they all have strengths and weaknesses, and I'll be like, well, this guy for in that era, and I like this guy for his stuff here, or this girl for that. But I mean, with process of elimination, um, I think I have to put Guru in there.
Yeah. You had Guru on
And
quite a bit of your
yeah,
famous
because he was
DJ
my
Ty.
boy too, because he come through and checked me and stuff, so I knew him, and that's not the reason why I like him. I just solid, man, solid rapper. And you know what? Uh, kind of Big Daddy Kane style, man. He's kind of hard too. But then there's so many rappers. How can you say this? There's so many, and they have
One
different.
more,
They come with different
one
strengths. One
one
more.
more.
You know what? As commercial as he is, you could say commercial, and people for this and that on. I really like Ice Cube, man. I like all
Nah,
around.
you
Yeah,
you you had you've
I
had him
like
on
him.
quite a few of your mix CDs too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he doesn't do anything that I just hate. It's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Those are some strong choices there.
Top 3 producers.
Now, um, see, do I got to stick to hip hop producers? I pretty much
Nah,
do, huh?
nah.
Oh, well, there's some more esoteric cats that produce, like this guy Ashley Beetle, who's a brother out of England who does, it's not trip hop or house. It's kind of in between. He does some sophisticated music, and then I would say Ashley Beetle. People could look him up, and then jumping to and I'm trying to pull a hip hop one. Um, man, God, I should have been prepared for this one.
You've made
I mean, you
so
got
many mix CDs, man. And
I
for
know,
those,
but every time people say, "What's your favorite?" anything, I'm like, I don't have a favorite. I like it
you
all.
have hundreds of mix
Depending,
CDs.
I say so and so is my favorite depending on the time of the day. But in hip hop, um, man,
So many.
yeah, there's so many, and who
Go
puts out
ahead,
stuff
give it
that
up to Dre. Go ahead, give it up to Dre.
you know that crossed my mind. I really want to say it, but I didn't want to because I felt I was gonna say, well, on a commercial tip, and it has to be Dre for hip hop. It does.
Nah, you
Well,
had
it
him.
does because he stands out. There's other people that have gems, but he lays it down track after track
Dre.
after track. Yeah, had to. I was trying to not do that and go
Oh,
that in that
come
route,
on,
but I had
man.
to.
Come
And
on, man.
then there's some other cats like you heard it, you know, Danger Mouse.
Yep.
All right.
Hey,
Yeah, I like
man.
him. That kind of stuff. That's that
God,
two-step
God,
English.
God bless Danger Mouse, man. I actually got to know Danger Mouse, man. He looked out, man.
Oh, I never met him, man, and he's one of my favorite
Oh,
producers. I got all his bootlegs, stuff
cool,
that he don't even have.
cool dude, man. Cool dude.
uh,
Like I could say, nah, me doing business in hip hop, he looked out better than anybody's ever looked out, for sure.
mm,
You know, on a business level, he looked out better than anybody looked out. Where we hit Imani and Brown had did one song for him for this project, and quote unquote, the label owner wasn't feeling it. So then Danger Mouse was like, yo, I really don't want to ask it, but can we get 2 songs for one? And I was like, nah, you can't get 2 for 1. You know what I'm saying? And so we left it at that. And then he hit me back like 8 months later. And he's like, yo, man, I'm in LA. Can we get together? And I was like, okay, cool. So he comes by the studio and we meet up. And he's like, yo, I got a chance to audition for the Gorillaz record. And the lead singer of the Gorillaz, the dude from Blur, Damon Albarn, he has the guy who started off passing me by. He has his voice stuck in his head and he thinks he'd be perfect for this track. So this is when we were in Koreatown. So I was printing shirts at the time, and Danger Mouse asked if Brown could come by this studio in Mount Vernon and record the track. So I'm printing shirts. Matter of fact, I was printing shirts for George Clinton. No sense, no I'm not sensationalizing it at all. Literally, I was printing
yeah.
George Clinton. So Brown goes to the session and he comes back, and I'm like, you know, how was it? And he's like, man, there was so much stuff going on in the track, man. He's like, you know, it's kind of difficult. I've never rapped over a track that was kind of like, you know, like that or whatever. And so from there, the Pharcyde had some shows in Australia. I get a phone call, and shout out to BlackBerry. I'll still rock. I rock BlackBerry until they made me leave, dude. I literally rock BlackBerry hard. So Danger Mouse called me and he was like, yo, you're gonna get a call from the Gorillaz people. They decided to go with Brown's track. It might be a single, because at the time they thought it was gonna be the lead single off the album. And he was like, I told them to pay you XYZ. I told them to give you XYZ publishing. And I just remember just being in my hotel room like, damn. And I kind of didn't believe him. And then like within 3 weeks, it came to fruition. And I was like, dang. And to this day,
Yeah.
nobody has been as fair and as cool. And it was a trip because I remember being in we were in Ireland, and we were on some Pharcyde stuff. And I met this owner of a club, and we at the time we were doing Pharcyde stuff and then bouncing back and forth to Europe, Brown and I, for Gorillaz. And I remember saying to Danger Mouse, like, dude, you need to come out with us on this gorilla shit. Like, cause I was having a ball of my life. I'm like, dude, you need to be here. Like, he's like, nah, man, you know, that's cool. I did that. But I'm working on this project with CeeLo right now, man. It's gonna be really big. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're working on with CeeLo, but we got it cracking.
Yeah.
We got it cracking out here. You need to be out here, you know, checking out part of this. And the dude who owned the dude who owned the club, he played me crazy. And I remember when I heard it, I was like, oh,
Yeah. You're like, that's
that
gonna be a hit.
dude, I was like, that's why he's not here. And then it was kind of like, it was surreal because like, dude, I saw Danger Mouse when he wasn't the Danger Mouse that was just like Red Hot Chili Peppers Danger Mouse or Gorilla, like whatever. I knew him or I had met him when he was like in a different space and place. And I remember when he came back from his first Gnarls Barkley tour, he invited me to a mansion that he purchased. And he was like, yeah, you know, I talked to one of my, I'm not gonna mention his name, but he's like one of my elders in rock and roll touring, whatever. And he says, whenever you go out and do a successful tour, when you come back by a mansion, like that's when you made it. Like when you can go out and do a tour and come back by a mansion. So he had bought this mansion off of Los Feliz Boulevard, and he invites me to it. And so I'm kind of like, well, I haven't hung out with him forever, but he is hella cracking right now, and I probably need to be at this party. And I didn't invite anybody with me. So I pull up to the house, and I just remember walking from Los Feliz Boulevard up to his house. And it was just a very long walk, dude. It was like a big drive. And I didn't know it was a mansion because it kind of, the mansions they have about Los Feliz, like the
They're
smaller
tucked in.
Yeah,
they're
so
tucked.
you gotta walk up that driveway.
Yeah.
And so I get back there, I call him, let him know I'm there. So he stops doing what he's doing and he comes down. He's like, oh man, let me show you around the house or whatever. He had a Fender Rhodes in every room, like literally every room. He had one in the kitchen. He had one in the living room. He had one in the other room. He had one in the pool, the back house, the pool house. And I remember for the first time, that was like someone that I knew that had like you're my level of Cocaine Cowboys, but not on Cocaine Cowboys type of LA type thing, on that kind of vibe. But he was somebody that I saw that I knew he was a pretty cool producer or whatever, but I saw him elevate up to that level, and like up to the point of where he did he's responsible for the U2 album that came out on Apple Music, where everybody got pissed off because they
me included.
Yeah, they dropped the album on everybody's phone. So yeah, that's my little Danger Mouse situation. So with that being said, I'll ask you, what would be your dream verses to watch?
My verses to watch?
Yep. Two groups going up against each other.
Yeah.
Dead or alive?
Oh, thank you. Also, that was my next question. Man, really quickly, not in a competition, you mean just go to the best concert ever?
Hendrix versus Miles?
You know what? I'm gonna have to throw in something like Fela. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'd like to see Fela. I never got to see him.
Fela versus who?
And you know who? I didn't get to see Bob either. I didn't even see Bob Marley play, and I was into him when he was alive.
Versus Bob. Woo!
Yeah, I was listening to him when he was alive for a year, but I didn't get to go see him. Man, I missed the concert. So yeah, come on, that'd be especially they let them do a duet together or something.
Speaking of friends in common,
yeah,
when we did the album Humble Beginnings, I brought in Ojanky, and he did a film. And the crazy thing about it was, I remember Ojanky telling me a story about he met Bob in the late 70s when Bob had came out here, and he was, I'm gonna tell it. Who cares? It's old.
I might have heard this one, but it's been 3 decades.
So they were riding down Wilshire Boulevard, and a couple of Ojanky with Bob Marley and some of the Wailers. They're riding down Wilshire Boulevard in a couple of Jeeps, and they looked over to the side of them, and they saw these girls, and they were rolling a convertible Mercedes Benz, and Bob was like, "Hey, what's up?" And like they didn't even know he was Bob Marley. And then the girls was like, "What's up?" And then Bob hopped in the car with the Benz, the convertible Benz with the girls. And Bob's whole thing was like, he was just hell of about soccer. That was just like his thing. That was like his life.
Yeah. That's
So the girls followed the caravan to UCLA. Bob played soccer for a couple of hours with some cats that were out on the field from UCLA. And then after, he disappeared with the girls for a couple of days, and then he came back. But that was like, that was
the good old days, as they say, right? The good old days.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'm gonna come at you with the last one. You being a DJ, hell of a social. Where do you see social interaction going in the next 5 years?
You know, I should have given that one a little more thought. But it's really, you could tell that there's something going on. There's something going on with social media, and they're trying to keep it a controlled thing, and it's in itself is trying to be uncontrolled. And with that being said, social media is going to really affect our lives. That's like not a profound thing to say.
More than now.
Yeah, it's more than now. I feel that I think we better watch our shit, man. I think we're gonna, because it's gonna suck a lot of people in, and they're gonna just be wrapped around it and live it. They'll live like whatever is projected to them, and they're gonna take that to heart, and then affect everyone else around them. And that's kind of a drag, that everyone's so influenced and swayed by everything that's being projected and shown to us. Yeah, and it'd be really nice if people just look at red and blue, black and white, left and right, and you look at it objectively. It would be really nice if they could, and I can't speak for everyone, and just go and just not swallow it all. You just watch it, but not swallow it.
Yeah.
You know, and believe it all. I see that it's going to really sway stuff besides just social interacting. It's going to sway, because it's already swaying politics, which sway, it's a monster. It's a monster, and it's kind of a drag because it doesn't look like a positive outcome. But we know there's good people out there and putting out good messages, and we'll be part of that. We'll be part of that by showing by our example. Come on, don't follow that. Don't just get stuck with what they're presenting to you as acceptable. What's acceptable is really like being considerate of each other, and looking out for each other, and having some substance at the end. Like, man, I really felt like I did the right thing to my brothers and my sisters, and it just makes it the socializing on is really making it shallow, and we can do better than that. And I have a feeling we will, if some people like us, and everyone just keeps pushing towards the real and away from the projections.
I'm gonna close out on this.
Yeah,
it's interesting because you and I come from a place of where, like, if you wanted to get at a girl, you talk to her. You know what I'm saying? Like you interact with people. You know what I'm saying? That's what we did.
yeah.
And it's crazy to me because people that never like had a life before social media, which for me, I put little shot glasses, little crumbs of life or whatever on social media. My life is so dope outside of social media. Like, my life is dope. Like,
I know where you're going with this, man, because I know where you're going with this. Some of the most popular people are only popular on social media. If there wasn't any Instagram or Facebook, they don't got nothing. They wouldn't exist. And we're not trying to jump into that, because we see that it has no substance. It doesn't float our boat. We go lay down at night, and it's just all bullshit. And we
Dude,
also don't swallow that stuff when we see people with their whole life looking like mega stars, and they ain't did nothing
a
but taking
filter.
selfies.
They're living their
Yeah,
life through a filter, man. Like it.
and it's kind of sad, but maybe it won't sustain. Maybe the eventually
Gonna be an
that will.
uprising.
Well, maybe it'll show itself for what it is after years of being shallow, and people slow because they're slow to learn. The masses, that is. Um, and we just keep on being ourselves, and that's all we can do. And it's stronger, so it'll stay on the surface, the real, you know.
Nah, that's dope. Well, dude, I appreciate the conversation, man. I know you hella humble. Like, man, I know you hella humble. Like it. But I wanted to have you on because beyond the skating and all that, if you weren't so humble, you could be a great motivational speaker because you've definitely had through
Oh
your
man.
background as a child up to present, you've definitely had somewhat of a challenge. And regardless of the challenge, what I've known of you, and I feel that I know you maybe not as well as most, but I think I know you better than a whole lot of people.
Yeah, you do.
You're a good dude, man. And you haven't
Oh
allowed
man.
circumstance to kind of like, circumstance to twist you or make you point the finger or to jate you or whatever. And it's like anytime I talk to you, you're always optimistic, like, well, man, just got to get it cracking. It's hard for everybody right now. You know what I'm saying? got to get going.
Oh,
And I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? But once again, you're one of the cats that if I'm ever feeling like I'm challenged or I'm kind of down or just something, I think about you and I'm like, dude, you're tripping, man. It's somebody who's gone through something that's deeper than like what you're experiencing right now, and you're feeling like you want to whine about it. And it's kind of like, man, stay positive, keep it pushing, and then something will, come of it.
yeah, because it's easy, man. Because I'm not just going through this alone. Even though I go through, you're going through it with me, and I'm going through what you go through. So I could drag us down with some negativity, but it's much easier to just try to see the light part and like let's go over there. It's easier, and see what's our next move in every little thing. And we can't let the environment control us, like social media control us, or prison, or anything, because we're spiritual beings, man, and we got that power and we know it. Um, um, and so it's beyond all this, and it's a really good experience when we help each other up. And I really appreciate you too, likewise, man, because it validates the reason for being positive and helping people, man. You just, and it's reciprocated, because you give it back. I can't do it all myself. I'm fueled off of your energy as well. So thank you.
Nah,
Love
man,
you
you
for that,
invested in the right cat, man. I promise you. Like, man, you put
man.
your chips on the
Yeah.
right cat. And although I'm not hard enough to cruise down to Versailles with you, I am hard enough to maybe go by Versailles and pick up some Versailles and bring it over to your spot and have a nice little socially distanced meal. So we'll get that hooked up and figured out.
On this day and age, yeah, let's break bread. I love it.
Yeah. Where can people find your mixtapes at?
Oh yeah, I'm still doing the mixes up on SoundCloud. I do have a direct one, and that's DJ Ty 808. There's other DJ Tys out there. All of a sudden, there's thousands of them. But DJ Ty 808 has nothing to do with the Hawaiian area code or the drum machine. It's just eights are good and they're infinite. DJ Ty 808 at SoundCloud. You will hear mixes from the 80s all the way up to a couple months ago.
Oh
And
man.
I'm still putting those out because I love sharing the blends and the musical murals that people are like, wow, okay, I didn't think of putting this together. And it's just fun. It's fun to share that, especially with
Where can I
music
find the one that
collectors.
had those rare grooves on it? The one that you did
Oh,
that had like the Busta Rhymes and the Genesis and
yeah, you mean the sample, the original sample ones.
yeah.
You know what? I have to put that one back up on for people streaming. Otherwise, I got some cassettes and CDs for you. But the one called Original Masters
That's
needs to
what it
be
was.
posted. Yeah, Original Masters of all the 90s samples. I'll put that one back up so it's available for just streaming. Meanwhile, yeah, people get on the SoundCloud, DJ Ty 808, it's SoundCloud. They will hear the stuff, and I love sharing it.
Cool.
You know,
Give your
music.
social media stuff for people.
Oh yeah, and then we have Ty Goodwin on Facebook, just Ty Goodwin, and the Instagram is DJ Ty 808 as well. So
Cool.
that's easy. DJ Ty 808 on Instagram, DJ Ty 808 on SoundCloud, and it's Ty Goodwin on Facebook.
All good. Well, no, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. I feel like we covered a lot, but we really didn't go into the
Yeah,
situation.
I
But
kept thinking there's a lot of times I wanted to jump in like I just did now and run with it. You know, but let's revisit this. Let's do it again sometime.
nah, we're gonna get a part two. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna plug you up with my other homeboy that went in at 17 and got out at like 40. And uh he's on the same vibe that we're on. Like he can't, like, man, he's not upset, he's not mad, he's positive, he's making things happen. You know, he went away for a while. He got out, he's got two beautiful twin daughters. You know, he came back to an acting career, he wrote a book, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, you know, similar cats need to come together and just kind of figure it out. But with all that said, man, I thank you, Ty. You know, man,
Thank you.
I hold you dear in my heart, man. You one of the cats that like I said, man, if you made that call, man, I
Yeah,
might not want to. I might not want to. So no, man, good looking out.
yeah.
All right,
People
man.
say things a cliche like we're family and stuff, but we're family.